Eugene never thought love after 60 could feel this complicated. He had already shared the mistakes, 5 types of women to avoid, but what about the other side? What about the women worth holding on to, the ones who could make the years ahead brighter instead of heavier? That's what today's story reveals. These aren't just tips, they are the truths Eugene learned through trial, error, and heartache. Each type of woman he met taught him that life after 60 can still be filled with tenderness, respect, and joy if you know what to look for. And here's the promise. The last type will surprise you, because it challenged everything Eugene once believed about aging and love. So, stay with him until the end, you won't want to miss it. Before we dive in, let me ask you, have you liked this video yet? Hit that like button right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because we love to hear your stories. Subscribe to Love and Life After 60, turn on the notification bell, and hype this video so it reaches more seniors who need hope. This is your moment to join a community that believes love doesn't retire, it only evolves. Eugene sat quietly one Sunday afternoon, reflecting on the long journey that had brought him here. After years of disappointments, false starts, and the heavy loneliness that comes with losing people you once thought would stay forever, he realized something vital: avoiding the wrong women wasn't enough. It left him guarded, yes, but it didn't bring the joy he was truly searching for. What he wanted was to understand the kind of woman who could actually enrich his life, someone who would bring comfort rather than confusion, peace rather than pressure. Eugene wasn't looking for fireworks or fairy tales, those belonged to younger years. At 62, he craved something deeper, companionship rooted in honesty, laughter, respect, and shared purpose. His journey wasn't only about romance, it was about building a life he wouldn't regret in his later days. He began to think back on encounters, friendships, and surprising moments that revealed the qualities worth cherishing. Those reflections became his guide, and today he wants to share them with you, so you too can see that love after 60 is not only possible, it can be extraordinary. The first type of woman Eugene discovered was the caring companion. He learned this truth the hard way. In his early 60s, after the loss of his wife, Eugene found himself surrounded by women who seemed interested but were more focused on appearances, social standing, or even the idea of not being alone rather than the true essence of companionship. That left him feeling even more isolated. But then came a moment that shifted his entire perspective. At a senior community event, he found himself sitting alone while others chatted in groups. Most women breezed past him, caught up in their own conversations. One woman, however, noticed his quietness and chose to sit beside him. She didn't overwhelm him with chatter or try to impress him. Instead, she simply asked, "How are you really doing?" Those 5 words disarmed him completely. Eugene didn't know what came over him, but he found himself sharing about his late wife, the memories they had, and the loneliness that often hit him at night. This woman didn't try to fill the silence with empty phrases like "time heals everything." She just listened, really listened. She nodded, she reached out her hand, and she gave him space to let the words come at their own pace. It was in that moment that Eugene realized the caring companion was not defined by dramatic gestures but by the quiet strength of presence. Weeks later, as they became friends, he noticed how she checked in on him with small messages, like, "Did you eat today?" Or, "I hope the weather isn't making you feel gloomy." These weren't grand acts, but they were steady reminders that someone genuinely cared. The truth hit him like a revelation. At this stage of life, the most valuable thing is not excitement but comfort. The caring companion creates a safe space where vulnerability is not seen as weakness but as a bridge to connection. Eugene often thought about how many seniors overlook this type of woman because they are too focused on surface-level attraction. Yet, it's the caring companion who gives you peace in the evening hours, who sits with you through the aches and fears of aging, and who reminds you that your story still matters. She doesn't demand that you become someone else, she celebrates who you already are. For Eugene, that experience opened his eyes. He realized that if you're over 60 and still searching for love, the caring companion should be at the top of your list. Because at the end of the day, when the parties end and the lights go out, it's her steady hand and her patient presence that will give you the courage to face tomorrow. The second type of woman Eugene learned to value deeply was the honest partner. In his younger years, Eugene might have been swayed by charm, appearance, or the thrill of new romance. But life after 60 had taught him that none of those things could stand in the place of truth. Too many times, he had seen relationships crumble because one or both partners weren't willing to be fully open. At this stage of life, when time is too precious to waste, Eugene realized honesty is not just a virtue, it is the foundation of everything. He remembered meeting a woman during a local travel group's hiking trip. She wasn't flashy, and she didn't go out of her way to impress anyone. But when they were paired together for the walk, she looked him straight in the eye and said, "Eugene, I don't play games. If I like you, you'll know. If I don't, you'll know that too." He laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but as their conversation unfolded, he realized she meant every word. There was something refreshing about her directness. She wasn't trying to manipulate him, she wasn't hiding behind polite smiles or evasive phrases, she was just herself. Over the weeks that followed, Eugene began to see how rare and valuable that kind of honesty was. When she was tired, she said so. When she disagreed with him, she explained why without tearing him down. When she appreciated something he did, she expressed gratitude freely. There was no guessing, no double meaning, no silent resentment building under the surface. For Eugene, this was a revelation. He had spent too much of his earlier life trying to decode what people meant, or wondering if words matched actions. But with her, everything was clear. It wasn't always comfortable. Sometimes her honesty stung, especially when she pointed out something he could do better or when she reminded him not to dwell too long on the past. But Eugene came to understand that honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, is far better than false peace. Without honesty, trust cannot grow. And without trust, love after 60 becomes fragile, easily broken by suspicion or doubt. What struck him most was how freeing it felt. He didn't have to perform or pretend around her. He could simply be Eugene, flawed, aging, but still full of hope, and know that she would meet him as he was. The honest partner doesn't promise perfection, but she promises truth. And for someone who had endured heartache and disappointment, Eugene found that truth was exactly what his soul needed. This taught him a lesson he wanted other seniors to hear clearly. If you're seeking love after 60, look for the woman who is brave enough to tell you the truth and kind enough to walk through it with you. Because in the end, it is her honesty that will make you feel safe, secure, and truly loved. The third type of woman Eugene came to admire was the joy bringer. Life after 60 can sometimes feel heavy, aches and pains linger longer, children are busy with their own families, and old friends are often far away or even gone. Eugene knew too many seniors who lived in silence, weighed down by memories of what they had lost rather than energized by what they could still enjoy. For a long time, he thought that was simply the way life had to be. But then he met a woman who taught him otherwise. It was on a retirement cruise, a trip Eugene had reluctantly joined after his daughter urged him to stop staying at home so much. At first, he kept to himself, reading in quiet corners and avoiding the noisy dining halls. One evening, though, he was seated at a table with a woman who seemed to light up the room. She had laugh lines that told stories of years filled with humor, and her energy pulled others into her orbit. Eugene noticed that when the waiter spilled a drink nearby, while others frowned or sighed, she burst into laughter and said, "Well, now the floor is just as thirsty as we are." The whole table erupted in laughter with her, and Eugene couldn't help but smile. Over the next few days, he realized she had a gift. She found joy in the smallest things. A sunset wasn't just another evening sky, it was a painting she marveled at as if it were her first time seeing one. A sudden rain shower on the deck wasn't an inconvenience but an invitation to dance barefoot in the water. Eugene found himself drawn in. One night, when the cruise ship lights reflected on the waves, she nudged him and whispered, "Isn't it magical that we're still here to see this?" Those words struck him. He realized joy wasn't about ignoring hardships but about choosing to live fully despite them. Spending time with her reminded him of something he had almost forgotten: laughter is medicine. She didn't deny her arthritis or the challenges of aging, but she refused to let them define her. And slowly, Eugene felt lighter in her presence. He began laughing more, joking more, and even joining in activities he once avoided. She reminded him that joy doesn't come from youth, it comes from perspective. What Eugene learned from her is something every senior needs to hold close: the joy bringer is a treasure. She keeps your spirit alive when the world feels dull. She reminds you that happiness isn't about the years you've lived but the moments you create right now. And when you share your later years with someone who brings joy, you don't just survive, you thrive. The fourth type of woman Eugene came to value deeply was the respectful equal. Too often in his journey through love after 60, he had encountered women who either placed themselves on a pedestal, expecting constant service and admiration, or those who, consciously or not, treated him as if his age made him fragile, incapable, or irrelevant. Both left him feeling diminished. What he longed for was simple yet rare, someone who saw him as a partner, not as a project or a burden. Eugene remembered dating a woman who constantly brushed off his opinions with a wave of her hand. If he suggested a restaurant, she'd say, "Oh no, that's too old-fashioned." If he recommended a book, she'd scoff, "Nobody reads that anymore." It wasn't just her words, it was the tone, the quiet dismissal that made him feel small. After a few months, Eugene realized that every time he left her presence, his shoulders slumped a little lower. She wasn't cruel, but she didn't respect him. And without respect, love withers. Then one afternoon, at a friend's birthday gathering, Eugene was introduced to a woman who shifted his perspective. She asked him questions and actually listened to the answers. When he shared about his years as a teacher, she leaned in, curious about the stories of his students and the lessons he had learned. She didn't treat his age as a weakness but as proof of wisdom. Over coffee the next week, when Eugene gave his thoughts on a current event, she nodded thoughtfully and said, "That's an angle I hadn't considered." That small acknowledgement meant more to him than flattery ever could. As their conversations grew, Eugene realized that respect in love is not about grand gestures, it is about daily recognition of the other person's dignity. The respectful equal doesn't try to overshadow or control. She walks beside you, valuing your strengths and accepting your flaws. She treats you as someone still capable of making decisions, contributing ideas, and shaping the relationship. For Eugene, this kind of woman restored something he hadn't realized he was losing, his sense of worth. He found that with her, he stood taller, spoke more freely, and even dared to dream again. Respect breathed life into his spirit. He came to believe that for seniors, respect is more than courtesy, it is the very air that love needs to survive. He often tells others now, if you want a lasting relationship after 60, seek the respectful equal. Because in her presence, you won't feel reduced, you'll feel renewed. The fifth type of woman Eugene came to admire was the growth seeker. For years, he believed the myth that after 60, life narrowed into routines, morning coffee, a few doctor visits, maybe some quiet afternoons watching television. He thought love at this stage was mostly about companionship, two people filling each other's time until the days ran out. But then he met a woman who proved him completely wrong. It happened at a small library book club. Eugene had joined reluctantly, expecting little more than idle chatter about novels he barely cared for. But she was different. She carried a notebook filled with questions, ideas, and observations. She wasn't just reading the book, she was exploring the world behind it. She spoke about cultures she wanted to learn more about, classes she still hoped to take, and hobbies she hadn't yet tried. Her energy was alive, sparking like a flame that refused to go out. Even at 70, she told him with a smile, "I'm still discovering myself." Eugene was struck. He had grown used to hearing people his age talk about slowing down, about what they could no longer do. But here was a woman who focused on what was still possible. She wasn't reckless, she was intentional. She showed him that growth wasn't only for the young, it was for anyone who refused to let life become stagnant. Her curiosity inspired him. Suddenly, Eugene began to wonder what new things he himself could still explore. He dusted off his old guitar. He signed up for a cooking class. He even started planning a trip he had always postponed. Being around her reminded him that love doesn't have to mean reliving the past, it can mean creating the future. A growth seeker brings energy into a relationship. She challenges you, not in a harsh way, but in a way that expands your world. She refuses to let you shrink into routine or surrender to boredom. With her, every day holds the promise of learning, discovery, and even transformation. Eugene realized that being with a growth seeker isn't about keeping up, It's about being invited into a journey of becoming. At 62, he thought his days of personal growth were behind him. She showed him they were just beginning again. That lesson stayed with him. A relationship with a growth seeker keeps love alive, fresh, and deeply fulfilling. When Eugene looked back at his journey, he couldn't help but smile at how far he had come. In the beginning, he thought dating after 60 was nothing but risk. Risk of being hurt, risk of being disappointed, risk of wasting the little time he had left. But through every encounter, every conversation, and every quiet evening of reflection, he discovered something more powerful. Love after 60 is not about fear, it is about wisdom. It is about choosing with clarity, seeing beyond the surface, and recognizing the qualities that truly matter. The caring companion reminded him that presence heals loneliness. The honest partner proved that truth builds trust. The joy bringer rekindled his laughter. The respectful equal restored his dignity. And the growth seeker showed him that it is never too late to keep becoming. Eugene wanted every senior listening to know this. Love has no expiration date. The years ahead can still be full of tenderness, discovery, and companionship if you open your heart to the right person. Do not let past hurts or disappointments convince you that your story is over. The truth is, your next chapter could be the best one yet. And remember, Eugene's journey didn't end here. Because after meeting these 5 types of women, something unexpected happened. He found the one who combined all these traits, the one who finally felt like home. And in the next episode, you'll hear how that unfolded. Before you go, let me ask you, have you liked this video yet? If Eugene's story spoke to you, hit that like button now. Share this with a friend who needs encouragement. Drop a comment below about which type of woman you think matters most. Don't forget to subscribe to Love and Life After 60, turn on your notification bell, and hype this video so more seniors can find hope. Because love after 60 isn't finished, it's just waiting for you to step into it.